Hi and welcome to the Studio Marco Primeau. In this video, I will explain the choices that I made and how I did mix the song for our mix exercise. There are still a few days if you want to participate. Look in the description for the instructions where to download the raw tracks. I thought that it would be more interesting to show you and analyze what I did instead of looking at me putting some plugins in and removing them and make some tests until I find the right recipe for this mix. So it's going to be a bit shorter video because I spent a few hours on this mix. So it's better for you to have the sum and the explanations of what I did. So let's dive in right away.
If you love somebody enough, you'll follow them wherever they go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. Well, if you love somebody enough, you'll go where your heart needs to go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
All right, so let's go track by track. First, the bass drum. I did not change the EQ from the minimal mix. It's the same EQ. What I did is add a compressor. It changes a bit of the level, but there's a texture stuff going on too. A bit of saturation in the high frequencies, but just a tiny bit, so it gives it a bit more presence in the mix. Royal compressor beats me. Each time I put it on a track of a bass drum, it does the job. So what I did here is I replicated the same setting for the snare. Right? And the snare, I thought that the rim shot could have more reverb. So that's what you just saw. I added a reverb. This is FabFilter Pro R. Love this one as well. The reason is there's an EQ going in the plugin and going out. So you can decide which frequencies you send to the reverb. That's very special. So that's what I did. I automated it. So when it goes to the rim shot, right? It changes the texture. It changes also the ambience and the imagery of the song because it's going up and down to different situation in the story. And after that, snare bottom, I did not change anything, only volume. And I also send a bit of the signal to the snare reverb, which is this auxiliary bus that I put there. We could put it afterward. It's going to be easier to understand. And that snare reverb auxiliary bus, I don't use it for anything else in the song. So it's only used for the snare drum. All right. Hi-hat, just a bit of panning, no EQ, no effects. I did set up a drum effects auxiliary bus. We're going to see it a bit later. The toms are just crudely there, and a bit of EQ only. This is the EQ. After that, the overhead, same thing, a bit of EQ. And the room mics, there's two. Oops. I did put a compressor on it, which was the same one in the minimal mix, and a bit of EQ too. And that's it for the room. After that, all the tracks are redirected to one submix bus, which is named drums. And I did put a tiny bit of compression on it. You see, it barely touches it. And I set up a new auxiliary bus, and I did put some effects on it. And the tracks going to this bus are the bass drum, snares, and after that, toms, overhead. I did not send the room there because it's already very compressed. And what I did on this bus is add a compressor first and then a bit of saturation. So let's listen to this. As you can see, it catches a lot of the snare. And after that, the saturation. Saturation often acts as a compressor as well. So it will go and reach the noises under and, of course, the ambient of the room and things like that. So this is like a garbage channel, if you wish, and you can blend it with the other tracks. Okay, it's very subtle, but it gives something that puts the drums in a better position in the mix. After that, the bass guitar, there's an EQ on it. So you see I pushed a bit of I-mids to give it some presence, but it wasn't very enough, so I'll show you what I did. On this, I kept the same compressor as in the minimal mix, and I added this EQ, which goes to boost some 60 Hertz. Also, it's a simulation, so a bit of saturation and harmonics distortion added with this plugin. Love it. Let's listen with and without. Okay, it fills the low end very well, but then in the mix, I kind of lose it some places in the mix, so I added another auxiliary bus, and on this one, I added a fab filter Saturn and then a compressor. Okay, so let's listen to this track alone. Both together. It seems a bit harsh like that, but in the mix it works well. Let's listen to a bit of the mix.
So thank you for your precious time. Forgive me.
You see, we barely hear the saturation track, but in fact, it just gives some presence to the bass. So then electric guitar 1 is the main guitar, And the thing that I did is a bit of EQ, very slightly. And after that, I sent it to a reverb and a delay, which is automated. So the delay will be there only on musical phrases, solos. And after that, we have those two tracks. I tried to push the electric 2 on one side and electric 3 on the other side, but in fact those are double take, and I like to have the clean guitar on both sides. It's a decision you have to make. So this is... Okay, on those I did put Vandal because they were DI tracks. And then the last tracks, which is the electric 3, I did put a compressor on both. And then a tiny bit of EQ, give them a bit of presence. And all the guitars together. For the solo, what I did is I automated a send to the delay, so you'll see here that it will go up. And also I automated the level of the solo and the level of the second guitars as well. Okay, and in the mix.
That's how I got to Memphis.
And now the lead vocal, as I said to Vatche, it's the track that gave me the most work. I did try a lot of different things, EQs, and I wasn't satisfied, so I ended up tuning the vocal ever so slightly. Some notes were dragged off, but it was a very slight tuning with Melodyne. I can show you.
Follow them wherever they go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. Well, if you love somebody enough.
See, some notes like this.
Well, if you love somebody enough, you'll go where your heart needs to go. That's how I got to Memphis.
So you see there's still a lot of variation in the pitch. So I did not auto-tune it to the extreme. And there's only a few notes that were way off that I did change. Then, for the effects, I started with a de-easer.
Go where your heart needs to go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got.
Even though this track is very dark sounding, I used de-easer first to tame those parts where the high frequencies get out of hand. And after that, I used dynamic EQ. I boosted the high frequencies, but with a compressor also, so the high frequencies won't be boosted everywhere. So let's check.
You'll go where your heart needs to go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
Right? After that, a compressor to give it a bit of character. The CLA2A, which is an optical character compressor, an emulation again. And then after that, Fab Filter, which is pretty clean sounding. And I kept the classic style, and listen to the difference.
You'll go where your heart needs to go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to.
We still hear a lot of bleeding, but of course, with a band, I kept it. I could have cleaned everything, but I decided to not cut at all the silence and remove everything. I think that it's a recording that was made live, so I wanted to keep that aspect. It's only a choice, of course. And with the mix,
Go where your heart needs to go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
right? The back vocals, only a compressor and EQ.
That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. Hey, that's how I got to Memphis.
And then on top of this, of course, I added a reverb. I kept the one that I used on the minimal mix, which is this one. And you can hear that I send some guitars to it as well. It's pretty large, but the level is low, so it just blend in the mix. And also I use the delay, which I automated for the vocal. So let's check a part where there's some, yeah.
That's how I got to Memphis. Hey, that's how I got to Memphis.
Actually, I think that I could do is send the delay to the reverb too. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do.
Hey, that's how I got.
Going to be more natural that way. So let's listen.
Hey, that's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
And this is the same delay that I used for the electric solo guitar. So the last thing on the mix is a limiter, and it does not work hard. It's just to put up the levels so it fits to the streaming platforms. For YouTube, it is recommended to put your music around minus 14 or minus 13 LUFS. This gives your music the opportunity to keep dynamics. So of course, don't compress the hell out of your song and then use a limiter to put it at minus 13. There's no sense to do that. Compress lightly if you want, and then it goes to the limiter, and you'll see that there's still a lot of dynamics.
I gotta find her and find out what trouble she's in. So thank you for your precious time. Forgive me if I start to cry. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
So I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, comments, you think that something I did was wrong, you liked it or not, please say so in the comments. If you did like the video, please click on the like button, consider subscribing, hit the bell to get notifications, And of course, share my videos. It's the biggest help for this channel. In the next few videos, we will compare Vatche's mix and my mix and maybe your mix if you want to participate. See you then!